All right, so the regular season just ended. We are excited because the play-in tournament starts this week. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be, one and done type of college basketball, March Madness type feel. Knicks, thankfully, are out of that play-in situation. But some other teams still have some fighting to do. Kudos to the NBA for coming up with playing all East Coast teams in playoff contention at a specific time, 1 p.m., and all West Coast teams to start their game in playoff contention at 3:30. That way, you wouldn't have people having an advantage of playing earlier or later, determining or not whether they were going to rest their starters if they already knew their position. So since everybody was playing at the same time, everybody had to play to win. So it's been very competitive. So we appreciate that. Let's go over the Eastern Conference first. At the top, we have the Boston Celtics, number 1 seed, deservedly so, facing the 8th seed, so the loser of the second playoffs play-in series. Will get that position. The unenviable task of facing one of the best teams in the NBA this season. They broke all kind of records: 3-point shooting, offense, net rating. Let me actually see what the Celtics are regarding net rating. They're number 1. You can see right there that the net rating pretty much determines who's the best teams in the NBA, and the Celtics are above and beyond in terms of offense and defense, one of the top teams, if not the best team in this year's. And you got to say that they're probably the favorites to win a championship. So we don't know who they're going to face yet. We're going to assume that it's going to be either the Heat or the Sixers. I think they're the prohibitive favorites here in the Eastern Conference. Let's just go through again with the East. The Sixers and the Heat. The winner of the Sixers-Heat gets to go against. All right, so here the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Orlando Magic both had issues. Donovan Mitchell was out for, I want to say, out of the last third of the season. He was out quite a few games. Had, I believe, knee issues and just other, bumps and bruises along the way. The Magic are a very young team. I don't believe anybody thought they were going to be here. They split the season series. The Magic are one of the top 3 defensive teams. Cleveland was one of the top defensive teams last year. So it should be a low-scoring affair. I still like the Cavaliers here. They didn't win last year, and they're not going against anybody of significance. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers, if I had to pick, would be the favorite here. I mean, Orlando's an upstart. Could they create an upset? Yeah. And if the Cavaliers lose, more than likely Donovan Mitchell is gone. He has stated he will not resign. Well, no, he has not stated. Rumors have it that he says it's NBA Finals appearance or he's gone. So he's gone. They're not reaching the NBA Finals this year with all their problems, their lack of scoring and everything else. But I do think the Cavaliers can win this and should win this series. And going for that 3-6 matchup, again, I think a lot of people have stated that the Bucks kind of lost on purpose here. They tanked at the end of the season because they didn't want the smoke of having to deal with going against the Sixers or the Heat. It's an easier matchup with the Pacers. And I'm saying this understanding that the Pacers have pretty much dominated the Bucks. I don't think that there was any series that the Bucks would have played the way they've been playing since they fired Adrian Griffin and hired Doc Rivers. I don't think anybody was a slam dunk for this team. They have struggled mightily on the defensive end since trading Drew Holiday. So, it's going to be a tough series regardless. The Pacers are, or were, one of the top 3. I think they were going to break the NBA record in terms of a scoring offensive output team. And so they have given the Bucks fits all year. Actually, I believe that the Pacers gave the blueprint on how to beat the Bucks because the Bucks were pretty dominant early on. So it should be interesting. When we look at the regular season, look at that domination. That is a 4-1 gentlemanly sweep. Look at the amount of points that the Pacers were scoring on them: 142, 122, 128. They're just absolutely smoking them. I think that the Bucks are an underdog in this series. I know it's weird because they're the 3 seed. And we'll see if they'll be able to switch it on against them. I just don't see it happening. But, stranger things have happened in the NBA. The Bucks are a young team. Halliburton lost his shot for about 20 games. So we'll see if Pascal Siakam will pay dividends playing against the Bucks. It should be a very interesting series. It's going to be very high scoring. And I think this is the series that everybody's going to watch from an offensive standpoint, because I don't think there'll be much defense. Final series, I'm not even going to look at because the Knicks don't know who they're facing in. It's either going to be the Sixers or the Heat. They played well against both teams in the in-season tournament and during the regular season. The Sixers, they beat them in Philly. All right, correct me if I'm wrong, but about 30 points. They beat them again. They had a back-to-back scenario late in the season without Embiid. So they beat them once at home, and then they lost the other game. So I don't think that's indicative of anything, because without Embiid, the Sixers were a completely different team. I don't know. There's not an easier series rather than, I don't think there's a preference here. Like, both are tough. The Heat made the finals last year. They've made the finals 2 out of the last 4 years, I believe. So it is going to be really tough in either situation. And the Sixers were actually one of the hottest teams in the NBA to end the season. I think they won 7 or 8 in a row. They won the last game without Embiid, so it's going to be tough either way. I mean, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a 7-game series with either team, to be honest with you. And the Knicks were the surprise of the regular season, playing without their second-best player in Julius Randle, and still finishing with the 2nd seed on the last day. So it should be interesting. As far as the play-in scenario, Bulls, Hawks, both teams struggled mightily. The Hawks, I think, against the Pacers, just gave up 150, 160 points in the last game in the regular season. The Bulls lost by 1 point in overtime. The Bulls are dogs. They play tough, so they're going to be a tough out. Since they're going to be at home at Chicago, I want to give the edge to Chicago, but DeJounte Murray has won a lot of last-second games for them. They have to reintegrate Trae Young, who's only played maybe a handful of games since coming back from injury. So I give the edge to Chicago, but I could honestly flip a coin between these two teams. I will say Chicago for now. I think is the favorite to win that, and I think the Sixers will win against the Heat because they bodied them when Embiid came back the last time, and they played them really well, and they're not afraid of them. So I think they can beat the Heat. If I had true, and the Heat like to play around unless they're absolutely going to get eliminated. They tend to play games, and they've struggled all year. So I'll have the Heat losing that. And so if it's the Heat versus the Bulls to determine the 8th seed and going against the Boston Celtics, I think I'll obviously give the edge to the Heat. I think they'll be able to beat whoever comes out of that 9-10 split, whether it's the Bulls or the Hawks. I think the Heat can win that, and I think they'll be the 8th seed to go against Boston. If I had to pick between Boston and Miami, I'm going to go, obviously, Boston. This is not last year. This is not the Bucks. And the Heat tend to, every other year, have a good run. So I think this is their year to not have a good run. And I think the Celtics sweep the Heat in that 1-8 matchup. So now for the Western Conference playoff picture. Let's start at the top.